Hello, good morning, everyone. We're about to get started here in a few seconds. I'm just waiting for one more person to sign in, and then we'll get going. Hope everyone is doing well. Okay, we do have a lot of material to cover in the hour, so I'd like to begin. This is the Intermediate AutoTag Training Webinar. Today is Wednesday, January 17th, 2018. My name is Eric Johnson, and I will be your Windward training facilitator today. I'm a technical support engineer here at Windward Studios, and I've been here for a few months now. You may have noticed that when you logged into the GoToMeeting webinar, you have a toolbar. The arrow that you see on the screen is to raise your hand. So if any time during the webinar you have a question or experiencing any technical difficulties, please feel free to click that button to ask your question or notify me of anything that's wrong. The only thing is the prompt that I have for the chat and the questions are on my other screen, so I may not see your question immediately. So I usually wait until the Q&A session at the end to answer questions. Again, this is the Intermediate AutoTag Training Webinar. We assume that you've built some templates. They could have been very simple templates. You've installed AutoTag. You know how to use tags. You know how to connect to your data source. You know enough about AutoTag to get you started. And you may have joined us last week for the basic AutoTag training. For the machine I'm working on today, I'm using Windows 10 operating system, which is 64-bit. I'm also using Office 2016, 64-bit. And the version of AutoTag that I'm using is 15.2.168.0. This release was just released last Friday, which you can go to our downloads page to download this latest release if you'd like. Okay, I want to give you a high-level overview of what we'll be discussing today. I'll go over some advanced features with the ForEach tag. We'll discuss conditional formatting, covering two types of conditional formatting. One will show hiding and showing content using AutoTag tags, and a second type that formats output based on conditions. We'll go over the equation editor, for example, how to use the sum function. We'll discuss the if and switch tags and what the differences are. I'll show you an example of the import tag. And because we have so many questions about Excel and Excel templates, we'll go over the Excel differences at the end of this webinar. Then, of course, the Q&A session at the very end. So for the ForEach tag, let's review what it actually does. It does three things. First, it grabs a set of data, any set of data that you want to pull from your data source. Second, it loops through that set of data that you selected to work with. And third, it repeats all the elements between the tags. I'll show you the importance of where to place the beginning and ending for each tags and show you results of placing these tags in different ways. We'll also get into grouping data or nesting for each tags. And I'll show you how to group your data with nested for each tags. Okay, I'm going to minimize this PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to open up a blank Word document. This is occurring on my other screen, so once it opens, I will bring it over to the main screen. All right, here it goes. Okay. maximize this. Okay, you may have noticed that in the AutoTag and also the AutoTag Manager tab, there's a Samples button. I'm going to select that to open this Getting Started guide. Okay. Within this Sample Templates section, here under the Additional, there's these tag tutorials for SQL and XML. We're going to focus on SQL as most of our customers are using SQL. XML being the second greatest used and JSON third most used. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Tag Tutorials SQL. And over here on the right, we're going to review the ForEach tag, which is the fourth one from the left. So let's go ahead and open this sample. All right. So we're going to focus on this first sample right here, the ForEach tag without a table. So it is possible to use the ForEach tag without a table. Yes, it definitely is possible, as you can see from this sample here. And below this, you can see the use of a ForEach tag within a table. But what I would like to focus on right now is this ForEach tag without a table. And what I like to point out especially is where you place the beginning and ending ForEach tag, and why it's important where you place it when you're looping through your data. Before we do anything else, I'm going to select this ForEach tag and preview the data just so we can see what we're working with. So selected it, AutoTag, and then preview. All right, as you can see, we're returning a list of categories, which contains the category ID, the category name, description, and the picture. This is everything from the category table. Now, what are we going to return in the alt tag that's next to the ForEach tag? I'm going to click on it, select it, and click preview. Okay, so you see that we're just returning a list of category IDs from the categories table, 1 through 8. Now, what's this second alt tag doing? Select it and click preview. Okay, it's returning just a list of category names. And now we have our end ForEach tag right below these ForEach and alt tags. So let's go ahead and show you the output of the sample so you can see what this example will look like. Go up here, click Output. Split the screen. Not sure why that's not splitting so nice, so I will just do it manually this time. All right. So on the left over here, this is our sample template, and over here is our output. So you'll notice that in the sample, we're just showing the category ID, a dash, and the category name, which is generated from these alt tags right here, This one we saw as the category ID, the dash, and the category name. And as you can see, each one of these categories are ending up on a separate line. So how is this actually happening? Why is it inserting the next record on a separate line? Let's go back to the template. You see that we added the end ForEach tag on the very next line after the alt tag. So there's nothing after this alt tag, all this white space. Then the ending ForEach tag on the next line. If I go to the home tag and turn on show hide formatting, you can see what's happening more closely. Right after the last alt tag is a paragraph marker right here. So we're providing a carriage return after the alt tag so we can add the end ForEach tag just below it. What happens if we took away this carriage return? Okay, what will the output look like now? As you saw earlier, it was a line, each record on its own separate line. Now that we removed it, what will the output look like? Yes, to stay. Okay. Now, the output looks very different. Here's the category ID, which is 1, a dash, the category name. Then immediately after this, there isn't even a space. It starts the second record as it loops through the content. And then there's the alt tag for the category ID, which is right here, a dash, and then the category name. This is why it's lining up on the exact same line for each one of these categories, is because there is nothing to indicate after this alt tag to go on to the next line. So then when it's writing this list and it gets to the end of the margin, wherever you define it, it goes on to the next line and carries on. And it does this across the page as well as down the page if there were to be more records than just these 8. Okay, let's go ahead and change this back. So this is why it's important to pay attention where you place the end ForEach tag. Everything between these two tags, the ForEach and the end ForEach, are being repeated each time it iterates through the ForEach loop. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you with this example, this specific one. Before we move on to another thing in this sample template, I like to point out the tag tree button. It's in the AutoTag tab over here in the data section. So I'm going to go ahead and click the tag tree button. This is very useful. I use this all the time, especially when I'm reviewing templates that I haven't seen before. When I open up the tag tree over here on the right, it lets me know all the tags that are in the template. I'm going to expand the main story so you can see it. So this template contains all these ForEach tags. If the template had tags in the header or footer, we would see header and footer up here in the tag tree. But as there is none in the header or footer, no tags, only tags in the main template, that's why we only see the main story here. Main story is the main template. One other thing that the tag tree does to help you out, if you double click on any of these tags, it'll take you directly to where the tag is in the template. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this customers loop because this will be the next example we'll be discussing. Okay. If you noticed, you see that it's taken us all the way down here. We're on the last page now. So this can be very helpful when you're trying to locate a specific tag, especially if you haven't seen the template before. If you go over here and just, as I showed you, click on any one of these tags, it brings you directly there. All right. So let's go ahead and discuss the makeup of this customer loop. So what do we have here? There's this company name. There's this outer for each tag. There's this I'm sorry, the customer loop. All right, let me go back one more time. So to break down how this tag tree is structured, this customer loop is the outer for each tag, while this for each tag right here is the inner for each tag, which is right there. And there's also a couple of alt tags, company name and an alt tag, which makes up the structure of this for each loop. Okay. All right. Not sure why. I was going to show you that. This tag properties is a snapshot of the attributes and also the queries that are associated with these tags. I'm not sure why mine is not showing right now. Sorry about that. But we will see the attribute, the properties, and the queries tags in a little bit when we show you the tag editor. All right, so back to our sample. What's going on here? We have an outer for each tag, and we want to group some data based on the company name. Let's preview the customer loop so we can see what type of data we're working with. So I'm going to select this customer loop, outer for each tag, preview. Okay, it's returning 4 records, and it looks like it's returning the customer ID and customer name. The next thing, between the beginning and ending for each tag is this company name alt tag. I'm going to go select it and preview it so we can see what we're going to return. So here, it's just the company names. Next, after this alt tag, is another for each tag, an inner for each tag to this outer for each tag. Let's preview this inner for each tag to see what we're going to return from the data. All right, this right here is a lot more data. We're returning the order ID, all the orders that pertain to this customer, to this specific customer. And we're also receiving all these other fields. So let's say you have a list of companies and you want to see all the orders for each of the companies as it goes through the list. This is exactly what we're going to show you in this example here. All of these orders associated with the customer and for each customer. So let's take a look at how this will look. Okay, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Okay. All right, here's our template on the left, and here's our output on the right. So we have our loop in the template, customer loop, and over here on the right, you can see the results of the loop. Here's the first company name. As you can see, it starts with the 1 and the arrow symbol. Then all the order IDs that are associated with this company. Then it iterates to the next company. And we keep doing this, iterating to the next company, displaying all the orders until we reach the end of the records, which is the last company is around the horn with all these order IDs. So how do we tie this inner ForEach tag to this customer outer ForEach tag? Let's look closer at this outer ForEach tag. When I select it, you can see up here in the ForEach tag properties that it has a variable name of var name 10. This variable is what AutoTag uses to identify this ForEach loop. Let's remember this var name 10. Now let's select this inner ForEach loop and click the wizard button up here. This opens our SQL wizard. I'm going to expand this so you can see it a little better. Okay, here's all the columns that's from this ForEach. I'm going to minimize this as we're not going to focus on the columns right now. So how do we tie this inner ForEach tag with this outer ForEach tag? We do this through this filter section. So you can see it's already set up. Now go ahead and expand the table and the orders. But basically, what we're doing is we're collecting the customer ID from the orders table, and we're setting this equal to the value of var name 10, which, if you remember, is the variable name of the outer ForEach loop, and having that equal var name 10 to the customer ID, since we have two primary keys. The customer ID in the orders and the var name 10. Now, if I click on this drop down for the var name 10 customer ID, I have a quick shortcut here that shows me the var name 10 loop and all the things that I can connect to. There's the customer ID and the company name. We're using the customer ID. Okay, you'll notice over here on the right in the data pane, in the data preview, there is that first customer ID, ALFKI, and all the orders that pertain to that customer ID, all these right here. Okay, I'm going to generate the output again so you can see one more time what this looks like. Now, okay, I want to explain what is actually happening when we generate this output with the engine. Each AutoTag has a small .NET engine built into it. What's happening is our engine completely strips out the data from your template, collects that data, and then rebuilds from scratch. And builds from scratch, from the top down, everything that's in your template. So it shows the data that you wanted and displays it how you formatted it within your template. So what's happening here in this example is AutoTag collects all the data in the customer loop and all the data within the inner ForEach loop, ties it together, and when it produces the output, it says that what's after the customer loop, and the first thing, what comes after the customer loop, and the first thing that comes next is this numbered list and company name. Then what does it do? It goes on to the next line, and it sees this inner ForEach tag. So it grabs all the data that's in this inner ForEach that's associated with this ForEach tag and displays the out tag from this inner ForEach loop. And it does this for all the order IDs that it finds within this inner ForEach loop. Then it will go on to the next line. When it comes across the ending for loop, this one, it then tells AutoTag to go back to the beginning of the outer loop and collect the next record of data and repeat the process. Iterate through the loop and repeat the process for every company name that's being listed and all their order IDs. So this gives you an idea of how the engine is tearing down the template and rebuilding it from scratch after pulling all your data from your data source. So this is how you group your data using nested ForEach loops. Next thing I like to go over before leaving this sample, on the page above, okay, there's this section right here. So we've been creating ForEach tags using row-based formatting. We're now going to focus on this sample right here, which shows you how to create ForEach tags using column-based formatting. The ForEach tag can be used for the column major expansion. Let me show you how this is accomplished within this sample. There are three things that are different when you want to create columns instead of rows. The example above right here is typical when creating a row-based ForEach. There's a ForEach tag within the table, which is going to loop through, displaying all data within these alt tags with all the formatting and of the tables and cells it will show. And then it'll come across this end ForEach tag, which is outside the table, which is typically what we want to do for the setup. But in this next example right here, the ForEach tag is inside the table. Before we go any further, let's preview this ForEach tag to see what data it's returning. Okay, so we have the list of categories. Familiar with this now. So we see the category ID, category name, description, and the picture. So what are we displaying? Let's select this alt tag and preview. So we're just displaying the category name. So instead of creating a list top down of category names, we're going to create columns left to right across the page. Let me show you what this looks like. Okay, I'm going to scroll down to the column-based formatting. Okay, right here. You can see that instead of going top down, we're going left to right as we create this table, creating new columns for each record that we want to show. The formatting's a little off because we've reached the end of the page and we didn't actually format the column that well, but you could have based upon the data that you're returning. Also, typically when you place an end ForEach tag within a table, it should create a blank row at the very end of this list. But we're not seeing that blank row here. Why is that? Let's take a look. I'm going to close this sample, this output. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to edit a tag. You can double click the tag or you can double click on a tag or click on the edit button. So I'm going to go ahead and select this end ForEach tag and click on this edit button. Okay, this is the tag editor, and within this one you have the query tab and also the properties tab. The ForEach tag is not used to query anything. It just tells AutoTag when to stop looping through the data and repeating the element. Okay, now within the properties tag, there's one attribute, this delete row attribute. And this attribute is currently equal to true. This is why we're not showing that last blank row. Now, if I were to turn this off by double clicking it and setting it to false and save it, what's this output now going to look like? Yes, to save. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Okay, now you see, before we didn't have this blank row, but now we do, because we turned that property delete row for the end ForEach tag to false. Okay, the last thing that we want to do is to change the property value for the ForEach tag to create columns instead of rows. Let's do this by double clicking the ForEach tag to open the tag editor. See, as I would have shown you earlier in that snapshot area, this screen is a little more robust than that snapshot section. We have a preview button. I can click it and we can see the data that we're returning. Here are the categories that we saw earlier. There's a wizard button, just like the button on the AutoTag tab. This allows me to see my SQL wizard. There's an equation button, which I'll show you a little later, that adds an equation to for tags. And then there's the next and previous buttons, which takes you to the respective tags within the template. So next will bring you to the next one in the list, previous will bring you back. All moving through the tags without actually exiting this tag editor. Okay, on the left, just like the data bin, there's the tables and the views that we have access to. On the right here is the query window. Yours is probably white. If I click within the window, there's a color scheme option. I'm using this 64 dark selection. I think the default is plain. Okay, so so let's go ahead and click this properties tab. And so as you can see, there's some advanced attributes and also some standard attributes and tag attributes. Okay, you'll notice there's this order attribute within the tag section. This one right here. And it's set to column. If I click the drop-down list, we have a few options. There's legacy, row, and column. Legacy is what is used by default, and legacy is a much different from row. What legacy means is it's the original way we built the tag. The row attribute gives you a little more. If you want to delete a row with the end for each, you'll have to use this row option. In our wiki page, there's some more info on how legacy is different from row. But since we're expanding not by rows, but by columns, we'll want columns set for order. With it selected, I'll save the tag. Okay. So let's go ahead and change this end for each back, because we want to delete the last row this time. So I'm going to double click this end for each to open the tag editor, go to the properties tag, and change the delete row to true. Save it. Now when we generate our output, we should not see that cancel. Now when we generate our output, we should not see this blank row. All right. See, now we don't see that blank row anymore. So 3 things. Make sure your ForEach tag is set to column, and the end ForEach tag is within the table, and the delete row attribute is set to true. That's how you can make row-based. Okay, let's go back to our slides. Okay, ForEach tag. We talked about the legacy row column for each types. We talked about the delete row attribute, which deletes a row from the ForEach tag. Oh, sorry, this was the one. I was wondering why that didn't match up. So yeah, we talked about the row, column legacy, and the delete row. Okay, we have over 50 equations or functions available for you to use. Let's take a look at some of them. I'm going to open the sample template using the sum function. Let me go ahead and open that one. All right. Okay, here's where we're going to add a sum function to create a total of the sales amount for all the salespeople. You can see I have a sales table here. There's a ForEach loop, several alt tags for the salesperson, number of calls, number of leads generated, and their sales amount. Now, before we do anything, let's take a look at our sales loop. I'm going to select it so you can see what it looks like and preview it. Okay, so it's just returning the salesperson, the number of calls made, the number of leads generated, and the sales amount. Same thing that we're showing in the alt tags. Okay, before we add the sum function, I want to show you how to display red text for those salespeople not meeting their quota. To do this, I'm going to go ahead and double click the sales amount alt tag, and this opens the tag editor. Let's expand var1 variable here in the data pane, the data tree pane. This var1 variable is just relating to our sales loop. This is all the data that we're returning from the var1 for each tag, the salesperson's call number, leads generated, and sales amount. Let's go to the Properties tab. In the Tag section, there's a condition. I'm going to expand this so you can see this a little better. There we go. We got the full condition right there. So there's a condition already set up for us. If I click on this ellipsis here at the end of the line, it opens the conditional formatting rule manager. So whenever you want to add an equation or whenever you want to evaluate data, you want to begin with an equal sign. Here it is right here. Then there's the $ and the bracket, the var1, which is referring to the ForEach loop. From the sales loop, we grab all the sales amounts, and if they're less than 8,000, we do something. Now that we have an equation built, what if we want to format it a certain way? If I know the formatting code, I can enter the syntax here. Or I can click this wizard button, which opens the format options. Here I can italicize, bold, underline, strike through, change the text color, the text background. And since we're working with a table, I can format the cell, I can format the border, the line color, I can give it a cell color, a sudden alignment. For this example, though, we're going to change the color of the text to red for sales amount less than 8,000. Okay, we've entered the hex code here in this text code color field for red. Unfortunately, we don't have a color palette. That's something we want to add as an option. But for now, if there's some color that you want to reference, you would have to go ahead and add the hex code value here. And so FF0000, this is the 6-digit hex code for red. So I'm going to click OK. And here's, if this condition is true, format this way. And here's our formatting color, FF0000. So if I wanted to, I could add another rule as well. I could delete a rule. This is all I want to do. So we want to show the sales amount under 8,000 in red. I'll click OK. Now we'll save this tag with the condition entered. Let's now generate the output so you can see what it looks like. Yes. All right, I'm going to turn off show hide formatting. So you can see any sales amount that is less than $8,000 is displayed in red. So we're able to highlight those sales amounts and really help show those people who may not be meeting their quota. So this is one way to conditionally format an alt tag for output. Now let's show you how to add the sum function. What if we want to total all of the sales amounts within this table? How do we do that? Well, we'll need to create a new row in our table underneath this first row. So let me go ahead and highlight this, select it, and then delete this tag. Now I'm going to add the row using this plus sign. Okay, now we're going to do something that I told you that you should not do, what I told you earlier you shouldn't do when it comes to role-based template. And that is placing the N for each tag within the table. So I'm going to place my cursor here. I'm going to go to the tags button and select the N for each. Now let's add some text. Total. I'm going to format it a little bit. Go to home, I'm going to bold it, put it right justified. Okay. Now we want to place right next to the total label under the sales amount, the out tag to display the total. I'm going to select, put my cursor here, go up to tags, select out. Okay, with this, we're going to go ahead and double click the out tag to open the tag editor. Let's now click on the equations button, and it opens this insert function window. We have a list of categories. It's all by default. Let's go ahead and set this to math and trigonometry, as we're going to be using the sum. And this list is alphabetized, so I'm going to scroll down and select sum, which is right here. When we select it, you'll notice that there's a description of the function. This function adds all the numbers in a range of values, exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And this, which now opens the function arguments window. Here's the equation, equal sum parentheses. You always start with an equal sign to evaluate, which was done here for us. So let's add to this equation. What are we going to sum up? We can enter in the number 1 field what we want to sum, or we can click the wizard button, which opens the SQL wizard. Now, what we want to do here is expand the tables, then expand sales. This is where we've been collecting our data from, and we want to take the sales amount and total it up. So we'll drag the sales amount over here to the columns section in the middle. Now the data preview will show us all our sales amounts. It's exactly what we want to sum up. So this is all we need to do is drag the sales amount to the column section, click OK. When we go back to the function argument window, you'll notice to the right of this number 1 field, the first value that's being returned. And then there's also the grand total. It's not formatted, but it's the grand total of all the sales amounts. Now our sum function has data in it. So this is exactly what we want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now we can see here's our query that we built through the equation editor. Here in this query tab, I'm going to save it. Last thing we need to do, since it's going to print out the number value, is let's format the data. So I'm going to select this alt tag. And within the AutoTag tab, I'm going to click the format button. Just like in Excel, what we're used to, I'm going to go ahead and click currency. And so 2 decimal places, yes, negative numbers, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and apply and close. Let's make this grand total bold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in it, use this select tag button. So I'm selecting the whole tag, go over to home, go over to home and bold this. Okay, now let's generate the output to see how it looks. All right, here you go. Here's our table with the extra row. Since we added the end for each within the table, it's giving us this blank row, but we utilize that blank row by adding the grand total for the sales amount. Great sample for showing you how to conditionally format the text for certain values. So this sum function is one of the many functions within the equation editor that you can utilize. Okay. Let's get back to the AutoTag Manager tab and select the Samples button. Now I want to show you conditionally formatting using if tags and switch case tags. I see that we're 10 minutes from the end, so I'm going to go through this quickly because I want to get in as much information as I can. Okay, let's make sure that Tag Tutorials SQL is selected, and let's open the if tag tutorial. This gives us step-by-step on how to utilize the if tag. What's it going to do? This gives us step-by-step instructions on how to utilize these if tags and what's it going to do. So let's look at this first example right here. If tag, alt tag, and if tag. Now the if tag is perfect when you want to show or hide specific elements within your template. I'm going to select this first if tag, which is going to evaluate what's going on the data here. Preview list. So what's going on? Preview. So this is evaluating if 1 is less than 2. And if it is, it will display everything in between this beginning and ending if tags. If it's false, it is going to skip this alt tag and then move on to what's after the end if tag, which could be another tag, anything added to the template. All right, so since 1 is less than 2, this if tag is going to evaluate to true. So this means that we're going to display this alt tag. If it was false, again, we'd skip over. Let's see what the alt tag is going to do. It's just going to display text that 1 is less than 2. Since it is, let's take a look at the output and see this line. Okay, so over here on the left, so 1 is less than 2. Since this if tag evaluated true, we display just what's in this alt tag. This next one, okay, this next if tag is an example of an if else. So if this condition is true, display this alt tag. If it isn't, display this alt tag. Let's take a look. So this if tag, what is it doing? It's checking is 3 greater than 4. It isn't, so it's false. Since this first if tag is evaluating to false, it's going to skip this first alt tag and move to this else tag, and it'll display everything that is associated with this else tag. And it's going to display 3 is less than or equal to 4. So if tags are good if you want to evaluate 1 or 2 conditions. But what if you have multiple choices that you want to evaluate it? Say you have 3 or more conditions. You can use a nested if tag right here, if alt tag, else tag, if tag, alt tag, else tag. This is a nested. But we suggest using the switch case tags. Let's take a look at this example. I'm going to choose the switch tag 2. So here's another table. Looks like we have some customer information. Let's see what we're getting. I'm going to click on that, auto tag and preview. So it looks like we're getting a lot of information here. A lot of data. Okay. So we're retrieving all that, and all we're going to be doing is displaying the first name, last name, address, city, state, postal, and country. This country column is where the switch tag has been added. Here's the switch tag right here. All the switch tag does is it just tells AutoTag when to start evaluating case tags. This switch tag evaluates these case tags. So right after this switch tag is our first case tag, and it's going to evaluate if the country belongs to Canada. If it does, we'll display this Canadian flag. Let's look at to see what's being evaluated. So I'm going to double click it. It opens the tag editor. So here we have our equal sign, var1, which just refers to the customer loop. We want to look at the country region name from the customer loop and check if it equals Canada. And if it does, display the Canadian flag. We'll do this for the US, Mexico, and Australian. As soon as we meet one of these cases for any of these case tags, the switch tag will exit and display what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and output this to see. All right. So here we have the name, first name, John Yang, with the Australian flag. And as we scroll down, you can see for different records, Lauren Walker has the American flag. So we don't display all of the flags. We use that switch case to determine which country this record has as a value and display the tag accordingly. And last thing I want to show you is the input tag. Just want to go ahead and close this. Go back here to the samples. And import tag. Sorry, import tag. Okay. Well, all right. So this is our input tag sample. So it looks like we're importing an image here. Let's see. So it looks like what we're doing in this one, we're importing an image, we're importing a PDF, we're importing a docx, we're importing a text and a net HTML page. Let's take a closer look at the output to see what we're actually gonna, what's displayed. All right. So what you see in the template over here is just an image preview. This is actually a tag. If I double click it, you'll actually see that we are pulling the image from the image, which is windward2.png. So this is actually a tag, and this is just a preview. I'd like to point out one thing, that on this input, that as you see here, underneath this importing a PDF file, we have an import PDF, but there is no PDF here. The reason we're not showing the PDF is because the only way you can import a PDF is by outputting to PDF. So if we were to output to PDF instead of Word, this would display the PDF input. So anytime you're trying to input PDF, you have to output the PDF. Okay, well, I see that we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I want to respect everybody's time. We made it mostly through. We just weren't able to discuss the differences between the Excel, the differences between Excel and Word, but there is a question. So let me go ahead and check on this question for a second. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a question, I didn't see it right away. The magnification is too small. I'm sorry about that. I would have done that. I wish I saw that a little earlier. Sorry about that. But there is another question. Can you show quickly some differences between Excel and Word? Yes, I would. I really would like to. Thank you for bringing that question up. Let me go ahead and open up an Excel template, and I'll just show you briefly just the thing, because I know we're at the top of the hour. So I'm gonna open up a blank Excel spreadsheet. And one thing I want to show you is inserting tags in an Excel document. Let me see if I can make this bigger to help. There we go. Hopefully that helps being able to see what I'm doing a little better. Again, sorry, I wasn't able to see that earlier. So I just want to show you adding tags and how to add those in the Excel document. So we've been working with ForEach Tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a ForEach Tag here to this column. All right. Now, if you wanted to add another tag within this cell, what you would do is, with the cell highlighted, go up here, choose an alt tag, and you'll get this message right here. Select where you wish to insert a tag. So I can add multiple tags in one cell, and by doing that, it lets you insert it wherever you want. I want to add it to the end of the ForEach, so I'm going to click right here. And as you can see, the alt tag is listed after this. Let's go ahead and give this some data so we can see what this will look like. I'm going to connect to our Northwind SQL database. And let's add some data to this. Okay. Data source, that's what I needed. So I'm going to I'm going to grab all the employees. And like I showed you before, I'm going to add an alt tag right after this. And let's display the first name. And then I'll just add this other tag here. Yes to save it. So here is the list of first names from this ForEach tag loop. And as you saw, by having the cell highlighted, clicking the option to add a tag gives you this prompt of where do you want to add it. Then you can just choose where to add it by placing your cursor. If you want to delete it, same thing. You highlight the cell. You can select it. And you could, if you wanted to select one specific tag, you could select that and then choose this Alt tag. When I do this, you can tell which tag you're on by the properties here. So I'm going to select this Alt tag, and here you can see it now is displaying the Alt tag properties, where a moment ago it was displaying the ForEach tag properties. And that's how you can tell which tag you're on when there's multiple tags in a cell. One other thing I want to show you just quickly is delete tag. So similar to the inserting, select the cell, click delete, and this time it'll give you the prompt, select the tag you wish to delete. I'm going to go ahead and delete this last one. So I just wanted to show you briefly how you can add multiple cells, multiple tags to a cell, how to tell which tag you're on. I'm on the ForEach tag. How to select the different tag, coming up here, selecting the tag and knowing that you're on a different tag, and then deleting the tag by using the same measure of delete and then choosing the tag you wish to delete. All right. So we've covered the switch tags, gave you a little bit of Excel differences. Tags work with native Excel macros. Multiple tags can exist in a single cell. Tags longer than 255 characters will be concatenated for you, and we do support native charts. Last slide, I would like you to, if you have a chance to photocopy, make a screen print of this page. If you would like to check out any of the any resources that we have, you can go on our knowledge base, to access our wiki knowledge base, you can go to wiki.windward.net. If you can't find what you're looking for, you can reach out to our amazing support team here at support.windward.net. Or you could also email them at support@windward.net. So if you have a question you can't find an answer to, go ahead and contact the support team. If you want any changes or have any feature requests that you want added to the engines or AutoTag, you can submit this at ideas.windward.net. So thank you all for joining. This has been the Intermediate AutoTag Training webinar. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.